Hello everyone and welcome to Teams Nation March 2021 meetup. And today we have a very interesting meeting ahead with two great sessions. We are looking forward to see all about Microsoft Teams, of course. And of course, we are going to share some interesting news about the Teams community conference as well. My name is Vesa Nopanen, and I'm very happy that you all have been able to join this event. If you have any questions, please do use the chat, and we try to remember to open the microphones during the Q&A as well, so you can speak out as well. This session will be recorded, and the recording will be uploaded to Teams Nation YouTube channel later on. Okay, and if you are wondering, that's me behind the Teams Nation Information Center, and we have Thorsten up here in excellent. Let's make him a presenter before I continue. All right, Teams Nation is a network of Teams professionals. Well, we all have passion for Teams. That's why we are here. That's why you are here. Of course, you want to learn, and we want to share, and we want to be a community together. And yeah, it's all about technology, but it's of course all about community as well. At least I have noticed during this year or last 12 months that the community is much more important than you actually think when you start kind of learning the tech and participating in things. But eventually you grow up into people, and that's where you end up. And the community started this Teams Nation as well. 2019, it was a European Teams user group back then, but eventually it grew and evolved, and here we are. And the great thing is also about that we are giving people a chance to present. So it might be difficult to get into some events or sessions to speak. So user groups like this are excellent for that, because that kind of gives you the opportunity to get started, but also to get feedback and meet your fellow community members. And that's what this is all great about. I'm not the only organizer here, far from that. There is Chris Hord from UK, Adam Delginger from Sweden, and Chris Webb from US. So this is quite an international group in here. I'm hailing you from Finland. So I'm kind of happy this is not the Eurovision if you start counting the points and etc. But there has been already 38 speakers throughout all these user group and meetups meetings. So that's a kind of great start, and our meetup group has already over 300 members, and it's growing all the time. So tell about that to your friends and join. Everybody can join in, so you are staying up to date what's happening. And if you want to present a session in here, just submit your details through the teamsnation.org/CFS, or be in touch with any of us. And then we start to work out how you can get to speaking here. And please do get involved. This is not about us, it's about you, it's about the community, and it matters that you share the word or follow us and kind of stay up to date. There are several options how you can follow us, and plus on top of the Instagram, I try to post a picture or two there now and then. But of course the main channel is usually Twitter and Meetup and the YouTube channels, and of course LinkedIn there as well. So just take a note of those URLs and follow us, join these groups, and join the sessions, of course. Before I get too complicated with words and kind of start repeating myself too much, today's agenda, we have 3 parts. Some update on the Teams Nation Community Conference, and it's always great to have some updates there. Things are starting to go forward really soon. And we have speakers Thierry Dalen and Thorsten Pickhan, who are going to give us 2 awesome sessions. And of course, at the end, we just go through a few important dates to keep your calendars up to date, and some links there as well. So what's happening? So our community conference update. We just checked today that we have already 1,100 registered people in, which is a great We've been doing this for 3 weeks, I guess, so we are on the right track, and the interest is really building up. And we have gotten awesome submissions. There's already over 350 submissions overall, so it's a kind of huge amount of sessions, and where the picking is going to be done. But in the end, it's going to be 12 hours of Teams awesomeness. That's going to happen on May 26th. With 11 tracks plus the launch, and it's going to be divided through 114 sessions. So not every track is going to be full from full 12 hours, but instead we are going to do some focusing in there. But it's even with 114 sessions, that's a huge amount of Teams knowledge to be shared. And 130 plus speakers are going to be doing that. So it's a kind of a great to see those sessions where you have more than one speaker going on, speaking at the time. So it's not just a one-sided lesson or something like that. Instead, there's going to be a lot of interaction happening, and that's really great. I'm looking forward for that. And we are in a process, still processing the phase 2. Basically, call for speakers is open until the end of this month. And so we are expecting that number to go a bit higher. And after that, it's going to start progressing quite fast. It's going to start getting out our speakers teams and moderators and amplifying the communication about the event overall. And of course, in the May, it's the actual important day happening. As a reminder, we have excellent speakers from Microsoft joining us. So these 16 people here are from Microsoft, and they have been headlined in early phase. So you do not want to miss their sessions in this. As a reminder, I talked about 11 tracks. I mentioned that and the launch. But yeah, there's great amount of tracks available from adoption and governance to the building and extending teams. So that's a kind of a big bunch of knowledge shared there. But on top of that, we have these new tracks like the table talks and unconference, which are more kind of interactive. There are multiple sessions, panel discussions, etc. So it's going to be much more human-centric in there. And then the SharePoint, OneDrive, Jammer, and Stream, SOIS, is about these underlying technologies that are used for Teams. So there's going to be a lot for everyone in that sense. And on top of those 9 knowledge tracks or plus table talk, we have the Teams Nation France and the Teams Nation Germany tracks that are led by Patrick and Raphael as well. So there's going to be a native / local track there, and they are going to be happening in French and German. So that's a very international global conference what we are talking about. But we can't do it alone. Of course, we need your help. This is, in a way, your conference, of course. You are participating that you want to get along with the other people in the community and learn more, share your knowledge, and meet people. So it's important that you are helping us out. And of course, lead people to register in. When you register, you will get an email that has an ICS file. So it's just about getting the date to your calendar with the joining links. And please, if you are at LinkedIn, use that short URL teamsnation.org/li to invite your network to the LinkedIn event. So that's a very easy way for us to share the knowledge about what's happening and share some information to attendees through that channel as well. But please, most of all, use the hashtag TeamsNation and share the word, especially to your networks and to your colleagues, friends, wherever you can think about that. So we are getting the people in because there's going to be a splendid lineup today.
So presentation should be visible, hopefully. Okay, perfect. So thanks for joining us today here at the Teams Nation Meetup March. My topic will be local media optimization with Teams direct routing. And I hope the time will be enough to explain So it will be more an overview, but also some PowerShell and some details. And yeah, hope you can take something with you. So let's start. First, a short introduction to myself. My name is Thorsten Pickhan. I'm working as Microsoft UC consultant almost 10 years now, I guess. In Germany, you can find me on Twitter and also the other social media networks like LinkedIn. I'm blogging a little bit in English about Microsoft 365 services, and of course with focus on Skype and Teams. And for all the German attendees here in the meeting, I also have a video blog on YouTube where I publish on a weekly basis Office 365 quick tip dedicated to end users, where I give some introduction to new features and functions in Office 365 itself. Also, I have a talk with my colleague Michael Plättner, should be known here in the meetup, where we also talk about new Office 365 services and features on a bi-weekly basis. But now let's start into the session itself. So what can you expect from my session in the next few minutes? I will explain you what in basic is Microsoft Teams direct routing, what is a media flow in general in Teams direct routing, how to optimize this one, and why we should do this. If you have any questions, please do chat them, send them per chat, and I would say I will answer by end of the session. So some basics about Teams direct routing. I will not go into detail there, but I guess it's better to have some basic information. What is Teams direct routing? Teams direct routing is an option to do Teams telephony or Teams phone system. So you can place your PSTN calls in Teams and do some outbound calls to get inbound calls. So you will extend the Teams client itself about PSTN telephony. What you need for this is the Microsoft Teams client license, of course, and the phone system add-on. With these two licenses, you have the basic to do phone system or to do telephony with Microsoft Teams. It depends on your licensing plan. If phone system is already included, if you have an E5 licensing, so an all-inclusive license, then it's already there. If you have an E3 license or E1, you have to buy an add-on license to get phone system in Teams. Then we have two options to get phone system. The first option is calling plan, and this is not covered here in this session. The second option is direct routing. This means that you have to configure a session border controller. What a session border controller is, I will explain in the next slide. And for this session border controller, you also need a public IP address and a public SSL certificate. On the session border controller itself, you can terminate your PSTN provider connection, normally a zip trunk, and the SBC will forward all inbound calls to Teams. And with this session border controller, you can do phone calls from Teams and to Teams. So Teams perhaps will replace your classic PBX system you have already. So what is an SBC? An SBC, or a session border controller, converts the carrier zip into Microsoft Teams zip and vice versa. What does it mean? Of course, we have an RFC for zip, where it's defined how a zip message structure should look like and what are the objects we need. But as usual, every vendor has its own interpretation of the RFC. And here's the same for Microsoft Teams. So we need a system between our PSTN provider and Teams, which will do the zip from the provider match to Teams and the other way around. Also, an SBC is some kind of firewall for zip communication, and it will protect me against zip fraud and attacks from outside. An SBC itself could be a virtual system or also a physical system. So it depends on your needs. And of course, we are supporting, or the SBCs are available for cloud public providers like Amazon, AWS, or Azure. So it depends on your preferred cloud platform which to choose. Okay, so let's go into the media flow so you have a better understanding what to optimize. In general, when we are talking about media flow in Microsoft Teams, we have to take a deeper look on it. So here we have the situation that we have on the left side, or a zip provider. In the middle, you have the Teams platform and your SBC. And on the right side, you have your Teams users sitting in the company, and the user would like to call someone outside in the PSTN. Therefore, the user will initiate the call and send the signaling message. I would like to call Thorsten Pickhan in Germany with over the PSTN. The Teams platform will check if the user is allowed to do this phone call, and if so, it will send this information to the SBC itself. From the SBC, there we have some routing rules like in the firewall 2, and if we have a match, the SBC will send this information to the zip provider itself. If the zip provider finds the remote party, it will establish an audio connection. So we have here the audio file itself, the RTP stream. And as you can see, hopefully, by my presentation here, the colors are not the best one. You can see that the RTP audio stream traversed my firewall 2 times. When the user sends the audio data to the Teams platform itself, and once again when the Teams platform sends my media to the SBC. Therefore, I have a huge bandwidth on the firewall itself. And of course, this we can optimize. And therefore, we can use media optimization. When some of you already using Link or Skype for Business or used them in the past, we have this technology since a few years, and it calls media bypass. And with the last update, half of the year, half 2020, I guess, we have some optimization here in Teams. And with this optimization, we have the same signaling way, but when an audio connection is established, the audio data will exchange between the zip trunk provider itself and or SBC, and from the SBC to the user itself. And here you can see the optimization. The bandwidth we use on the firewall is reduced because the audio is transferred between the user and the internal SBC leg. So, and this is new. In the past, when we had already Teams media bypass, the media flow was normally to the external interface of the SBC. And now with the new technology, with the local media optimization, we can provide a better way so the media is connected between the user and the internal network interface from the SBC itself. What are the requirements to configure this? First, we need an SBC which is certified by Microsoft to use with Microsoft Teams, and we need a current firmware on the SBC itself. Then we need a list of all internal client networks and all external IP used for client connections to Teams. Why we need them? Because on this information, Microsoft or Teams recognize if a user is internal of our network or it's outside of our network. And depending on this situation, the media flow can be achieved or not. Because when I'm at home and do a phone call from the home office, normally I can't reach directly the SBC or the internal interface from the SBC, and therefore the local media optimization will only be given when I'm in the company network itself. And therefore teams need this information. So I will build a network topology in Office 365, as we already need for location-based routing, for example, or dynamic emergency calling. So you can see it here on the image. First of all, I have to define via PowerShell a network region. Then I need to create network sites, and to the network sites, I also need the network subnet. When everything is in place and configured, I have to configure also the SBC itself, and then I can start to use Microsoft Teams direct routing with local media optimization, but the network topology is required in this situation. I have some examples here how to configure this network topology. First of all, in the first line, you can see that I defined a network region. In this case, I have SBC infrastructure in Azure, and for each region worldwide, I have a specific SBC in the corresponding Azure data region. Therefore, I configured one network region called Contoso, and for each of my regions, I configured a network site ID. In the next step, I configure the public IP addresses. Oh, I missed this step. I configure the public IP addresses which the clients are using to connect to Office 365 or the Teams platform. When I have these two steps, I define the network itself. So I configure the subnets accordingly to the network site ID. This is the step one before. And last but not least, I assign the network sites to the SBC, and this is important. So as you can see, in the last step here, I assign the subnet to the network site. This is EU, for example. And in the step before, I assigned the EU site to Contoso, and the EU site itself, it's assigned to the SBC. When I have done all the stuff, I can take a look into the zip flow diagram itself. Here I have an example for an external user. What you can see here is a zip call flow diagram. On the left side, you find the zip messages we get from the Microsoft Teams platform. In the middle, we have the SBC, and on the right side, we have the communication to the zip trunk provider, to our PSTN provider. And this is the so-called zip invite message. And in this invite message, all required information are stored. So I can find the from header. So someone from my company would like to call someone outside. This is in the to header. And I can see which servers by Microsoft I use currently as proxy system. And what I can see also, and this is the important stuff, these are the XMS user location header. So the user in this example is currently external and is using the SBC02. When we take a deeper look into the zip flow, we can see here the 200 OK. This means that the call is connected, so we have an audio connection established. And in the last field here, we can see that there is a public IP address used, and this is the public IP address of the SBC itself. So the user is external. This is detected by the definition of my network topology in Office 365, and the user itself is recognized as an external user, and therefore the media flow happens over the external interface of the SBC. Now, when we are looking into the zip flow diagram, when the user is internal, you can see here the same. We have on the left side the Teams platform, in the middle or SBC, and on the right side we have the PSTN zip trunk provider. When we take a look into the zip message, We also have here the same information. I'm calling from 2, but here is a user location internal. That's because Microsoft Teams platform recognized our client IP as internal. I also have information about the user side from where the user is currently located. And when we take a deeper look into the package, which IP address should be used for the media flow, you can see that in this case, there's an internal IP address, 10.40 something. And in this case, the media flow happens between the user endpoint and the SBC, the internal leg of the SBC itself. So in general, we have 2 options or 2 modes to implement local media optimization, and it depends on your network infrastructure, which mode you would like to use. Here we have a scenario where we have a known subnet in Cologne. So I did all the publishing to Microsoft about my network topology, assigned the trusted WAN IP address for the network site in Cologne. I configured the client IP address and assigned it to the subnet, and this subnet is assigned to the SPC, which is located in Berlin. And on the other hand, we have unknown subnet. So this is actually not configured. The user here or the site is in Munich. And we have on the right side our Teams platform, and on the right side also the zip trunk provider. The first mode we can use here for local media optimization is always bypass. This means that it doesn't matter if the user is located in a known subnet or an unknown subnet. Microsoft Teams will always try to do local media optimization. Sorry for the images, it's a PowerPoint live. But it doesn't matter. So what you can see is here that when the user initiates a call, the zip messages or the signaling will go from the user itself directly to the Teams platform on the left, on the right side. And the media flow here with the red lines will go to the internal interface of the SBC, and from there, from the external interface to the PSTN zip trunk provider. That's because we configured always bypass. The other option we can use is local only. And this means that only known subnets will use media bypass optimization. This means in this case, Cologne is a known subnet, and therefore it is configured in Office 365 in our network topology. And the media path is the same like before. So if the user tries to initiate a call and a call could be established, the audio flow is directly from the user endpoint to the internal interface of the SBC, and from the SBC external interface to the PSTN provider. But what happens if the user in Munich would like to do an outbound phone call? Because it is an unknown network, the signaling will go from the Munich user to the Teams platform. Microsoft Teams platform does not recognize the subnet where the user is located. And in this case, it will do the audio directly from the Munich user to the Teams platform, and from the Teams platform to the SBC, and from the SBC to the PSTN. So, short summary. What are the benefits by local media optimization? First of all, we can reduce the bandwidth consumption on the firewall and in the network itself. And it delivers a better call quality because we have not so much hops implemented when the user tries to do a phone call. There are other scenarios where we can use local media optimization, which are not covered here in this scenario, by a centralized SBC and SBCs, which are located in my branch offices. In some, this reduces my requirements for the infrastructure in some. As I said, this is not covered here in this session, but there are very good articles in the Microsoft Docs which describes this scenario. So with local media optimization, you can reduce the complexity of your SBC infrastructure. And last but not least, the user can benefit from the global Microsoft network. So if they are in the home office and do a phone call from there, the audio data will enter the Microsoft global network to the Microsoft Teams transport relay server, and from there directly to the SBC. So this is also a benefit from the local media optimization. And this was already my last slide. I thank you for the listening. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you,
Thorsten. It was not too complicated.
That was very well said and placed, presented information about the, for example, I don't know much about the SBC part and direct routing, so it was great to watch. There was one question in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that yet? What is the best way to find subnets? I guess find subnets that which are not covered yet by network topology. For example, new subnets appear without knowledge.
I can see. Yeah, probably there are some options in the quality dashboard if you implemented it here. So there's also an option to upload your network topology to the call quality dashboard in Microsoft Teams Admin Center. And from there, you have different options or different reports to localize unknown networks. And what is also given are Power BI module by Microsoft. And there should also be an option to find unknown subnet networks. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any more questions? I just opened the microphones for the audience. If somebody wants to ask directly using voice. So I guess it was a very kind of a clear presentation. Everything's super clear. We can do some trick questions for people, and they can all answer those.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Thorsten. So normally we meet us in Germany. So nice to see you at Teams Nation. So one question for this time in English. For using bypass mode in Teams, we're using direct routing with one SBC.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to set up bypass mode for always or local users only, can I use the same SBC as the proxy SBC? Or no, do I need a special external IP address or so?
No. What you can do, and this is also a recommendation by Microsoft, not to when you start with the project, you can do all the local media optimization in the beginning, but normally there are some ground infrastructures and it's not possible to implement it from scratch off. So what are the possibilities to implement it with a ramp up phase? You can configure in the Teams Admin Center a second trunk and configure it for local media optimization. And this trunk can terminate on the same public IP address with another full qualified domain name. And then it depends on the SSL certificate you use in the SBC. When you have, for example, a wildcard certificate, it's not a problem because then it's everything fine. And to use local media optimization, you will then configure a dedicated online voice routing policy and can assign this policy to the users. And then, yeah, you have some options to prove and check if everything is working fine or not.
Thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? There's one more in the chat. Have you found a way to troubleshooting the calls from Teams point of view? Can you see it, e.g. see SIP signaling between SBC and Teams, or only from SBC point of view?
It depends on the SBC itself. So my example here was from an audio code SBC, and here you have a tool to get all the information. And when you can grab this information from the SBC, it's possible to see the signaling from the SBC to the provider itself, and also from the SBC to the Teams platform.
Okay, I hope that cleared it out.
True.
Yeah. And our next meetup is going to be April 26th. So that's the end of April side. And we will have David talking about how to manage the creation of Microsoft Teams. And we will have Robert talking about how to increase productivity and employee well-being based on machine learning. So two very interesting topics. First, a bit more perhaps technical, and then we talk about on more about well-being and the adoption side, which is great. There are kind of interesting things coming up in there. So go to the meetup and find the April event there and join that one and share the word so we can get people to join the meetup next time as well. And of course, in May we have the big conference, so we don't have the specific meetup, but we'll have one in June. So as a reminder, get involved there. These are the slides or the URLs I showed before. And on top of those, there's the teamsnation.rocks/li, which leads to the LinkedIn event. And I think it was in here as well. I don't have the presenter slides visible right now, so that's kind of trying to remember what was next on my slides. Anyway, of course, there's the short link for that. That's very easy to share in the social and use the hashtag #TeamsNation there. And as a reminder, the registration part, this is a very good one for screenshot, for example, if you want to share this in Twitter or somewhere else. So you will have the lineup of Microsoft speakers there and the registering URLs. So please do get people to join us in there. And that was that. For this time, there's still time for questions or free talk, but I will keep that as a closing slide there. And thank you everyone for joining this meetup, and see you on the next one, April 26th.